Hi, I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about kind of reading strategies for college classes. Um, when I assign like something like an essay or article, um, the difference between articles are more informational. Essays are kind of more the writer's opinion. Um, I expect you to, excuse me, I will expect you to read this through several times, 2 or 3 times probably. Read very carefully, take notes, annotate. When I assign reading from the textbook, it's more kind of informational background on how to go about writing. And it's things you can go back to and can reread um, if necessary, and thinking especially about parts that you might want to revisit and maybe marking those as you read. But you don't need to read them typically with the same kind of close attention to detail that you would some of the other assigned readings. Um, so, for instance, this is the Vincent Writer's Handbook. I don't have a cover anymore. That's how long I've had this thing. This, I think, was the edition with the green cover with various pictures of you. So, just to kind of go to what was assigned for you guys in this, and you can see that I've got some writing on most of the pages of this. I've got about 3 different editions of this, and they all have different amounts of writing on them. I assigned you guys to read pages 6 through 27 out of here. I kind of wanted to give you guys maybe it's 9 I think it's 9 through 27. So on chapter 9, so if it says page 9 and you see chapter 2 starts in the middle of page 9, that means you probably can just forget this stuff. You don't need to worry about it right now. So you basically would start in chapter 2 here. Look for things like the bulleted words are going to be important. Things that are bulleted lists, those are things you can read pretty quickly. Look at the headings before you read, which will help you get a good idea of what the section is going to be about. If you have a good idea of what it's going to be about, then you're less likely to get lost and confused. I know sometimes I'm reading and I'll read 2 or 3 paragraphs and be like, wait, what was I supposed to be reading about? And have to go back and reread those 3 or 4 paragraphs again so that I understand them. Reading things like the topic headings can help a lot with that. This has a lot of short topic headings. Also, a lot of these things, there's a lot of things here which will say, for instance, close-up purpose and content. That's just going to kind of summarize what you've already read. So if it might be something to look at that might help kind of get across the same thing. For instance, this is talking about different purposes people write. It just gives a quick list. Those are easy and quick to read. Here on page 13, it says exercise 2.1. And this whole thing is basically a list of, here's an idea for a paper you could write. Typically, if I only assign you to read, you don't need to worry about reading those parts that are just giving you ideas. If you don't have any paper ideas and I've assigned you an essay and you can't think of any, you might flip through those and see if any of those relate to what I've assigned. But typically, you'll have a pretty good idea of what to do when I assign the paper. You can just ignore those assignments within the text and just not even read those. And that'll save you several pages of reading. So, for instance, thinking about writing for an audience in your personal life, your public life, as an employee, as a student, reading just those bulleted words in the bulleted list will help you kind of read through that and get through it more quickly. And then you get to the college writer's audience, and it gets more specific into what you'll actually be doing. So you'll know that might be something to pay more attention to. So, for instance, it says multilingual tip. So For instance, if you're multilingual, that might be useful to read, but if you aren't multilingual, it might be less useful for you. So think about those things as well when you're reading, and you might be able to save yourself some time. But here's, for instance, so then when we get to the writing process, you're going to see other things in there like exercise 3.1. Again, that's just another assignment. You'll be able to skip through that. So that'll help you kind of read through that a little more quickly, I hope. And similarly, in the From Inquiry to Academic Writing textbook, one of the things that this does is, so you'll start off, you guys reading pages 1 through 21. Again, it's got assignments within it as well, such as this box up here, a practice sequence inquiry activities. That's something you might be able to skip over. Whereas something like moves to model is going to give you some specific skills and strategies. So that might be something you might pay more attention to or remember to go back to later. And so one of the things you might notice is I end with a part where it gives some reflection questions in this assignment, and then it gives an essay assignment on reflection activities. And you'll see that I didn't assign the pages which in those longer boxes with the assignments simply because I only want you to focus on the text rather than having to do those assignments at this point. The last thing I wanted to kind of point out in this one is a lot of times when you're reading, you may see something like here, this part of the book, this is on later on in the book in chapter 4. It gives an sample student essay, and then they give their notes on the sample student essay. Typically, if there's one of these in the middle of the reading, typically you would not need to read it. It might provide some good context because they'll usually discuss it for a couple paragraphs afterwards. But typically when I want you guys to read samples, I will give you samples to read. So hopefully this helped you guys kind of understand how to read better and get a little better reading strategies. And hopefully that will help you read more quickly and make more efficient use of your time in reading the assignments. Thanks.